what I've usually come to find out is most people don't watch a lot of videos on the weekend habitually. Most of my views come in during the week. In the last couple days, though, I seem to be getting a lot of very interesting comments. Some of them from new viewers. So I'm very happy for any feedback that comes in. We even got a comment of someone saying, well, I don't respond with any words, typing in those responses because there's nothing to say, everything's in agreement. So I appreciate that too, but then it makes me think that probably if there's not a lot of comments, that the majority of the views are people agreeing and they're just keeping up to date. They watch like 30 seconds or a minute of the video and they get it. So what I'm going to talk about today has to do with a story that I remember. It's a pretty happy story, but it's within the context of something that's not so happy, because it's my ongoing criticism of the Christian church. Kind of sounds like it goes together. Criticism of Christianity, Christianity. All right, enough playing with words. In the Bible, and especially the Gospel, it says what it's going to be like to follow the spiritual leader who's bringing this great awakening, this new way of life, this renewal to the world. And that's Yashua, of course, Jesus Christ. There are several rituals to do, ceremonies, and it's said that they must be performed. And one of them in general, which I think everybody knows, it says, when two or more gather together in my name to pray or to be together on something, then I am with them. So we know that this was in effect when Yashua, the leader, and the core group was together. And he was telling them, if we're separate, but a few of you get together and you cooperate, we're all connected. And you're connected to the center, which is me, he's saying. Now, usually it's implied that this also continues to be in effect the whole time, continuously after Yeshua has physically left the earth. So that means now over 1,000 years. I'm not going to say 2,000 years anymore, because I don't believe in the calendar being accurate. So this type of a premise of, the general ritual, if myself and anyone else gets together, 3 maybe or 4, and we pray, we bring the actual presence and the power and the energy, the living force of Yeshua to be with us. We call onto that. This is really the basis for what the church is doing, because church is like a gathering of people. It's not the church building. I think people always get confused. There's a total misconception there. It's not about the building. They call it the church. No, the church is not the building. But anyhow, let's not digress. Let me talk about another ritual, which I really feel from my research is absolute. But yet, Christians seem to be lacking. And what it says in the Gospel, according to Yeshua's command, the ritual of the foot washing is to take place. This means that whenever anyone comes to you who is open and wants to be welcome in to the church, the Holy Spirit wants to be connected with Christ, they should be welcomed with openness, as much as they are open and giving and coming to it, being there, and there is the foot washing. Okay? So whenever you go to church, this should happen, especially when you go to a new church. There's no reason to do anything else if you're not going to do that, because that's the ritual that it says in there. And they've edited that out, they've mistranslated it, and the interpretation of all the modern denominations is that, this is just some fancy, unimportant thing that they did, for Yashua. And remember the woman, she had the long, long hair, and, she was so enamored, so full of the Spirit and the love and the appreciation for Yashua that she went down and wept and used her hair and washed off his feet. This is a very touching image. They've done it in some movies, but you can just visualize in your mind when you read that passage, or just whenever you remember it. But I want you to realize something, that when these rituals have been lost, that are from the traditional, like the down-to-earth, actual things that were done, then Christianity has nothing left to stand on. It can talk all at once, it can be theological, it can quote things out, it's a lot of talk and words and repetitious prayers which are useless. Rosaries and things like that, that's very questionable. That's like chanting. If you want to call it chanting, it's a mantra. But how much effect it's going to have, it's just to stabilize the mind. It's really not that effective. It neutralizes. I'm going to give you the example, the story from my life. I've been in basically every denomination. I've been there, I've visited. What was I doing? Well, I get around. I want to see what it's like. Many of them I didn't come back to. I just tested out the waters. I'm not impressed. There has to be something there. And I'm very open. I'm very sensitive. So don't say, oh, you just went in and you gave up. No, actually, I know what's going on. And I've been doing this since I was a teenager. But for all those that I go in and I'm looking for something, not a single modern denomination. You go down the list. I'm not going to name any in particular. They all failed to wash my feet. Now, is there something wrong with my feet? Is there something wrong with my feet? Now, they didn't see my feet. I didn't come in barefoot. I was wearing nice shoes or sneakers, whatever it might be. They didn't wash my feet. They didn't wash anybody's feet, in fact. I don't want to feel insecure because of myself, but they didn't wash anyone's feet. Did they wash your feet? Now here I'm getting riled up telling you, but I'm going to calm down. I'm going to tell you a very nice story, okay? To end this off in peace. And so there might be a glimmer of hope, and there might be some reason as to why I'm telling you this. That you might experience it, and we might experience it together. An ancient, true ritual is still being done. Have faith. I went to a group, which I'm going to mention because I can say something positive about them, something that's true fact. Did you ever hear about the Menonites? I'm talking about the Old-time Mennonites. And they are basically a branch from, could be connected with the Anabaptists back in the days of Europe, and they came over. It was after the Pilgrims and the Puritans, and there was a movement. They might have been connected with the Huguenots, but let's just stick to the Mennonites are alongside with the Amish. Okay? It's debatable as to which one actually formed earlier. I think that was very close, but I want to say, if I'm trying to be accurate, that the Mennonites were actually the earlier branch. But they're so similar, especially within the context of, Church of England or Catholic or Greek Orthodox. So you've got Mennonite and Amish. And what happened was they came over to the New World, and a lot of them, which settled in Pennsylvania. They were called colloquially the Pennsylvania Dutch, although they have nothing to do with the Dutch. But they don't come from there. They come from Germany, and Dutch means Deutsch, because German speaks Deutsch. Sprechen de Deutsch. I'm not going to play around with German here for you, but I am a linguist. They are the Pennsylvania Deutsch. That's what it means. And all over there, it's very well known to tourism, and part of American culture. The subculture there is the Amish. So all I'm going to say is that while the Amish is the big name that's recognized, there is the old-time original Mennonites who were also there. I really don't want to get into explaining like what their differences actually are. I just want to say that mostly they're so similar. When I went to a true Mennonite service, everything was read in Old German, like Middle German. It's not even modern German. So many German people, in fact, I hope that I have a lot of German viewers here that get to this. It's not German that you would understand. I went into the service, and for about 2 hours they just were reading and just going on in that language, and everybody understood it, and I could only catch like a few words, but it put me to sleep. It was so hypnotic. It was like, I can't even imitate it. I wish I could have recorded it, but they don't allow any machines. Just like with the Amish, they won't. Nothing with gas combustion, nothing with electric. So I couldn't insult them. In fact, they might get mad and kick me out. I respected their rules. I didn't record it, but I remember very, very clearly. So I had a host who was an incredible man. I'll always remember him. They got run out of Pennsylvania, though. They've been migrating out, if you know the history of all that of the past few years. Well, few decades. And, but let me tell you something. He washed my feet. And he was the first one that really pointed out that this is what Yashua intended. That if you really wanted to be with Christ and you really had a right to call yourself Christian, that this is what you do. He invited me as a guest. I stayed with him a long time. No electric in the house. They have these like kerosene lanterns, which I use sometimes. Originally they used whale oil. Thankfully they don't do that anymore, but thankfully we also have to get rid of kerosene because that's the petroleum industry. But anyhow, just all these kind of things in the house, and he was getting some of his products from all these old-time factory, small-scale factories which made all this stuff that was mechanical but not modern. And this is a very, well, all my adventures are very spiritual. So I was on their farms, and he was my host. And actually, in fact, I brought another one of my friends that I grew up with, and we also stayed. I stayed longer. And the washing of the feet, the washing of the feet. See, I got to show you because the video's about feet, man. It's not perverted. It's feet, and it's not a fetish. It's like prescribed in there. It's explained. You have to wash the feet. If you were the host, if you were the church, if you were the ones that supposedly know all about Christianity, and you can extend that faith, that energy, that church, the religion, you have to wash the feet of anyone that comes to you. Your guests, or anyone that comes into the church service, that's what you have to do. So this happened to me only once, and I've been in hundreds of denominations. Uh-oh, someone has the hiccups. Did you hear that? Let me show you this little guy here so you know why I have to leave right now. But the video's open anyhow. You got hiccups? What do I have to do? Do I have to scare you? What you can do to get rid of hiccups, by the way, everybody, just so I can tell you something else, it's the roof of your mouth. You've got to put pressure on it. One of the acupuncture points there, acupressure. You can actually just use your tongue. If you want to, use your thumb. But actually, if your tongue is strong enough, just push it for at least 10 seconds, heavy pressure up into the roof of your mouth. Always works for me. Forget about scaring people and all jumping out like all crazy like a horror movie. Use the pressure points. Thanks for listening. I know it's a long video, but I thought it was worth telling you about the foot washing. Tell me if you have any experience yourself, and tell me. But sometimes people want to justify the fact that their Christian branch doesn't do that. But I'm sorry, it's not real, and there's no prophet that's ever come along that said don't do that anymore. So if you're not following Yashua, you're not really with me. So I welcome any comments. Share this with all your friends. Favorite it to your playlist. Thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe.